In this video, we're gonna talk all about 10 tips to planning your next custom headlight job. That means what parts you wanna use, what parts you don't wanna use, and maybe some things that you just wanna avoid altogether so that you don't have any problems along the way. Let's jump right into it. What's up guys, I'm Chris from FlyRyde.com. If you're new to the channel and you want to learn all about what parts to use, how to install them, and why we choose those parts to begin with, start now by subscribing and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any uploads. So this is all about planning. If you ask my wife, she would laugh at you that you're watching a video from me about planning. And she'd be right. We'd both laugh at you. So here's the deal. I don't plan a lot of stuff out too well. I'm not a practical dude. I make videos on YouTube teaching all the secrets of things that I've learned how to do. But I have learned a lot of stuff by screwing it up, so I'm gonna talk about that, and we're gonna go over all of these tips, starting with the very basics, like what's a cool basic build that you can start with so that you can plan it out, make it happen, finish it up, and then grow from there and do another one. Tip number one, simplicity. This is a set of G35 headlights, and I'm not gonna do anything crazy to them. They have film on them right now, that's gonna come off, but all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stick them in the oven that's actually right there. This thing is sitting on it. I'm gonna open these things up, take all the internals out, paint them black, put them back together, and it's gonna be done. So that is one great, easy way to win and learn a lot, especially if you're just getting into the basics, is plan things to be simple off the bat. You can add to this later, and we're gonna talk more about that with tip number two. Before I get into tip number two, I wanna link up the video that is right there, right? I'm making videos for years and I don't remember. Left shoulder. Okay, so I will link up in the card above the video all about terms, so if any of this stuff doesn't make sense to you, you can figure out what it is. I'm hoping that I'm reaching a lot of basic people that haven't done any of this stuff, and this is your very first bit of advice on building custom lights. So tip number two is gonna be all about the parts that you use. So stick to things like angel eyes, LED strips, demon eyes, and that's it. If you're gonna plan a build and you're not way advanced with all of this stuff, those are my tips. And so part of tip number two is what not to install. You don't want to install sequential. That's a bad move. You don't want to do crazy paint, two-tone paint things. Stay away from that. It's not good. And you also want to avoid super custom parts that are never in stock. It makes it very difficult to plan anything when you order something now, but it's going to take 3 months to get here. You know what I love is, even though I'm making a video about planning, I'm looking at my phone, and this is how you can plan better itself. Google Keep is super dope. It's how I plan a lot of my stuff, and it's free. So here's a quick little cheater tip. Download the free app, Google Keep, and you can make dope little checklists and stuff. You can use it for groceries, making YouTube videos, the to-do list for the day, whatever. Pro tip. Coming up to tip three, we're gonna talk a lot of advice for maybe you if you're building lights for yourself, or you if you're building lights for your customer. You're gonna wanna order things from as few manufacturers as possible. And the reason is, everybody's got a different wait time system, shipping times. Some companies have their stuff together, other companies are like me, I don't know. Sometimes they're too spread thin and they're very niche specific, like they only make this one little gadget or that little gadget. So if you're trying to plan a project, it makes the most sense to take a bunch of products that are from the same manufacturer, because you know they're gonna match and they're gonna be all in stock at the same time. That's a very, very solid bit of advice right there. Tip number four, if you choose to get two parts from two different manufacturers and they're both white LED, you need to get these things and test them side by side with your eyeballs, not the internet. If you wanna plan this stuff out right and you want your build to go well, know what you're working with ahead of time. If you already know that the rings match the bulbs perfect, dope, cool. If not, you really need to get those parts in your possession, turn them on side by side, and check them to make sure that your build is gonna go as planned, because a lot of times the whites will not match. So if you're doing this for yourself, you just might be unhappy. If you do it for a customer, they might be really unhappy because they just paid a bunch of money and it looks stupid. All right, tip five, you're gonna make a schedule for your build, and that schedule is going to include the time it takes to order the parts, receive the parts, and to test the parts. So I just talked about white and different manufacturing and making sure all this stuff is the same. You wanna give yourself time to do that. So always talk with your customers if you're doing this for people that are paying you. You wanna take their money only on the basis that it's gonna be something scheduled out long enough for you to do your job and make sure that everything's gonna be good to go before you're stuck with the vehicle sitting there in your possession, or their lights are off their car and they can't drive to work, and all the things that customers tell you to, shove you into the position that they want you to be in. Yeah. Tip 6, take a deposit. Take deposits from people. If they're actually serious about doing something and they're not just kicking the tires, you can tell them what the price estimate will be. Estimate is a key word there. And then you can present to them the time that you think that you'll be able to schedule it. And then when they take the deposit, you're gonna be able to do step 7. Okay, so you've taken a deposit. Give yourself the time required to order parts that show up using the money from the deposit. Right? So there's no reason that if somebody's paid you that you can't just take that money immediately, put it towards the things that you're gonna need for the job so that they arrive on time before you tell them the day that the car is gonna actually show up. So that's kind of a 2-part thing, but tip number 7 again is use your money that you charge the customer for a deposit to order the parts and allow the time for those parts to show up, and then you test them. Because here's what you're gonna avoid. If you have ordered parts and you schedule the job already, and they already think that on Thursday they're dropping off the car. What if the parts show up and they're the wrong size? What if they show up and the RGB isn't working properly? You don't have red, but you got green and blue. What if there's any issues and you've already set it up to where they're shipping something to you, lights are off their car, they can't get to work, now it's your fault, you gotta pay for their Uber. All of that drama you can avoid by giving yourself the time that you need to test the parts that you ordered with the money from the deposit. Got it? I guess I didn't even think about the fact that totally, if you're building lights for yourself, that applies as well, right? Why take the lights off your car, do all the things, and make it somebody else's problem if when the lights show up that you're supposed to be installing into your headlights, like the angel eyes or whatever, if there's an LED that's not working, you don't get to say it's their fault now that the lights are off the car and you can't show up to college on time. Like that's your thing. You decided to do that. Or it's your fault that your customer's without lights or a car or whatever because that ring isn't working how it's supposed to. Nobody made you tell them to do that. That was a decision, right? So this is maybe it sounded like hard advice or whatever, but like it's only because I've screwed this up so many times. I know from firsthand experience, it's not anyone else's fault but my own if I have a customer ship something in because I'm supposed to have all the parts and I don't have them and then they show up and they're not working the way they're supposed to. My fault. Don't be like me. Tip number 8, it's gonna take longer than you thought. Just is. There is an exception to this, and I talk a lot about it in my 5 months to 5 figures course, which is something that very few of you would be interested in unless you're actually just trying to make money to do this stuff. So if you are, I'm gonna link it up below and you can hear all the crazy stuff that I go on. Probably a lot of tangents in there too, but here's the idea, is that everything's gonna take you longer than you think it will, unless it's something that you've done a bunch of times in the past, something that you've niched down and just focused on getting really good at that one thing, one kind of car, one kind of service for it. Maybe you use a couple different options. Some people get like black paint, angel eyes, demon eyes, boom, that's it. Like those are your options and you've done that like 50 times, 100 times. You're gonna know about how long it should take you to do it. So at that point, you're gonna already know how long it takes to do the things that you're charging money to do, right? If you haven't done that and you haven't done 50 builds, 100 builds, you haven't spent 10,000 hours mastering that specific thing, then you're probably gonna underestimate how long things take. Let people know that, if it's only supposed to take you 10 hours to do a job and it takes you 400 hours, like you shouldn't do that. That's not okay. It's not okay that somebody only paid for 10 hours and they get 400 out of you. So you're not gonna get it right the first time that you guess how long something should take. And you know how like sometimes you think it's gonna take a certain amount of time, but then you start working and then everything goes perfect and it all comes together awesome and it takes you way less time? Yeah, that doesn't happen. For you guys with shops, especially you guys that work from home in your little workshops there, I want to give you a little formula here. If you have a project that should take you 6 hours, that's a 2-day project. Unless you're a single guy who doesn't have a family or a wife that gets upset if you are working into the middle of the night and your customers don't mind sitting there looking at you for hours and hours and hours while they're stranded waiting for you to finish, which puts more pressure on you and you probably screw up and take even longer. Not good. If something's gonna take you 6 hours, that is a 2-day job, right? If it's 4 hours, okay, you're pushing it. That's a 1-day thing. But if you're gonna do something that requires you 6 billable hours of time, make sure that you get to have the car overnight. And that probably sucks a lot if you work from home. So I'm probably talking to like 8 people right now. just 6 hours is 2 days, because then you can finish the work that you need to, and the next day you can come back fresh, button it up, make sure it's all ready to be picked up and delivered. The customer can come pick up their car, your lights are done, all those last minute stupid things that happen, and they're not happening after you've been working for 12 hours already. Your brain's fried, you're hungry, you can't stop to eat, you can't stop to make the call. You're not doing anything else in life, you're just trying to get that thing done. That's where mistakes are made. So just keep in mind, you need multiple days if it's gonna be longer than 4-5 hours. My God, you're pushing it. And this is tip number 10. This is specifically for guys that are doing work for customers. This maybe is for the customer I'm gonna mention right now. Pushy customers are begging you to not deal with them off the bat. They're giving you a red flag right off the bat. They want a discount. Discounts are gonna curse the whole job. Now it's put this weird position of power thing into the wrong spin, and everything that they want at this point, they know all they have to do is push a little extra, and they'll get what they want. And that's a bad place. You as a customer, if that's what you're doing, you're putting yourself in a bad place, because you're gonna get yes from a guy who should say no. And the reason that he should say no is because he knows there's potential for problems that are gonna be things like, I don't know, what if he never wants to deal with you again and you were such a pain to deal with, and then there's a problem? He's gonna ghost you for sure. He's just gonna disappear and not wanna deal with you. Ghosting happens, like, it's not okay, it's not good. I don't like to do it, I don't like it to be done to me. It's just an inevitable thing that happens when you know if you start talking to this person and say one word, it's gonna turn into hours and hours, or they're gonna take that little bit and just gobble up as much of your day as possible, or stress you out, change what you're thinking about to what they want you to be thinking about, and that screws up this project. Whew, it's crazy. So, those guys that are pushy are gonna give you a red flag. Take that and appreciate it and move on, because there's somebody else that's going to be able to work the way that you want to work. They're going to be down with the way that you have it set up, and you should deal with those guys. And if you're a customer and you're totally vibing with somebody, it seems like a good fit, then you should feel way better than if you like are pushing and grinding, getting a different price and doing that and like making it unfun. Like, don't make it fun. Just let the guy be a professional at what he does so that you don't have to be the professional. You can pay him and you can give him enough money that if there is an issue, you get to be like, yo, I mean, clearly you aren't the cheapest guy out there, so like you should cover me. You shouldn't be like the kid that does it for 50 bucks in mom and dad's backyard, and then like your stuff starts messing up and fries out, and now you're out a bunch of money for replacement parts and you can't get a hold of the kid for the rest of your life. That was your fault. That's because you chose the wrong person to do business with. Be the guy that people want to do business with. Be communicative with them. If that's one thing I could tell you of my weaknesses, is that I have so much going on that I'm usually not there enough for my customers that really want to be able to just reach out and get a quick ass answer. Like, I'm not that guy anymore. I can't be and make these videos and do the courses and all the other stuff, but that's my choice. And so it sucks for the customers that deserve that. They don't get it. Tip number 10, red flags, pay attention to them. Maybe you're the red flag. Maybe you're the guy that they should be avoiding because you said that some crazy job is only gonna take you 2 weeks and it's gonna cost $3,000. Like, that's not a thing. That's not gonna happen. So all of this stuff works both ways. Watch this video again and pretend you're the customer, or watch it again and pretend you're the builder. And I'll see you on the next one.